In this video I'm going to show how to tear down and clean the Ruger 10-22 rifle. My name's How To Bob, and I want to start out by stressing firearm safety. Here we have the Ruger 10-22 rifle, and I want to stress the first thing before we even get started is to make sure that your firearm is unloaded. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my magazine out. First I'm going to pull the bolt back, lock it into place. Then I'm going to hit the magazine release and pull the magazine out, making sure that it is unloaded. Next step, I'm going to check the chamber and make sure that there is nothing in the chamber. So once the firearm is unloaded and you have verified that, we can start out by taking off the barrel band at the front of the weapon. And this comes off fairly easy, just using a flathead screwdriver. Don't have to take the screw all the way out. Just loosen it up and the barrel band will slide off the end of the barrel. The next step is to remove the takedown screw located right in front of where the magazine goes. And that will stay in the wooden stock, so it doesn't come all the way out. Once I get that out, you can see that I have to put the safety in the middle position so that it slides through the wooden part of the gun. And once I get it in the middle, I can just lift the barrel and trigger assembly out. Then I can set my stock off to the side, and I'm going to move my bolt back to the forward position. And now it's time to take the trigger assembly off. And to do that, I'm going to take out the pin here and here. You'll see there's two pins, and I'm going to gently tap those out with a hammer and a punch. I got a real small hammer here. Doesn't require too much force to get them out. It gets easier each time you disassemble the firearm. I just pushed it through a little bit, and then I can grab it with a pair of pliers on the opposite side, and they come out really easy. Once that comes off, those two pins come out, the trigger assembly will come right out the bottom. Next, I'm going to take out the bolt stop pin. It's located right here on the back. And to do that, I'm going to use my small hammer and a punch, same as I did before. Knock the pin out on the one side, grab it from the other side, and simply pull it through. Now that I have that out, I can remove my bolt by sliding it back to the front, and I get a screwdriver under, and it'll come up from the back and pull straight out. That just leaves me with my bolt handle, guide rod, and recoil spring assembly, which it comes right out the side here. And now I'm going to take my patch and my gun cleaning solution. I just use the hops and spray a little bit on the patch. Get the patch good and wet. And then I'm going to take my barrel. I'm going to work the patch that's saturated with cleaning fluid down the barrel until it comes out the other side here. Make sure I get it good and wet, working it around a little bit. That'll help loosen up any debris that are in the barrel. And there we have it. Now I'm going to pull my patch back through the barrel, and I'll work it back and forth as I pull it back through the barrel until I get it out the other side. At this point, I'm going to take my copper bristled brush, and I'm going to run that down the barrel and scrub it out on its way through. I want to make sure I scrub it back and forth as it goes through the barrel. That'll help dislodge anything that might be stuck along the walls of the barrel. And I'll push it all the way through, working back and forth until it comes out. And there we have it. Then I'll pull it back through just to get it good and clean. I like to do that a couple times before I'm finished. And now I can start with a new fresh patch. And what I do here is I'll push the rod all the way into the barrel without a patch. Once I get it all the way through the barrel, I'll then add a patch at that point. That way I can pull the patch through the barrel instead of pushing dirt back into the gun, I'll go ahead and pull the patch all the way out, and you can see all the debris that comes off. And I'll repeat that process until the patch comes out good and clean. Do it a couple more times here. Just pull the patch through to the end of the barrel. Now that I got my barrel good and clean, I'm going to go ahead and clean the receiver, and to do that I'm going to spray a little gun cleaning solution down in my receiver and use my nylon brush here and just kind of scrub around the inside, the little rails where the bolt slides back and forth. Just kind of working it in the slide handle area here around the entrance to the barrel. And then I'm going to take my clean rag and wipe it out. You can see I've got a lot of junk out of this receiver this time. Hadn't been cleaned in a little while, so just go ahead and wipe all that out. Once I get it pretty well wiped out, I'm going to go over to a Q-tip, and that'll get me into the corners, and I'll get out all the excess cleaning solution that's left behind that I couldn't get out with the rag, and I'll get a little bit better scrubbing back in the corners and all the crevices of the receiver. Now once I get done with my Q-tip, I'm going to use some compressed air to blow out all the excess cleaning solution. Next I'm going to clean the trigger assembly, and before I do that I want to make sure I release the hammer. So I want to hold this down with my finger and then release it by pressing the trigger, and what that does is release the tension. You can see it's under tension here. I'll do it a couple times here, and I want to make sure that I put my finger on it so that I don't lose the hammer spring and hammer strut, because if you don't hold on to that, that could go flying. Then I'm going to take my cleaner and just spray it down in here, and you can take the hammer strut out. The hammer strut and spring will come out here. Let me get this cleaned up a little bit here, and you can see the spring right here. It just slides right out, so I'll take that out of the way. And you just take your nylon brush and work around gently, not to disturb anything down in there. And I'll move the ejector out of the way, extractor out of the way. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Q-tip, make sure I get all the cleaning solution out from down in the trigger assembly, just kind of working it around. And you'll see that my hammer just flops back and forth without the spring holding it in place. And I'm going to take my air and blow out the trigger assembly, get all the excess out of there. And I'm going to clean my hammer spring and strut here. Just a little scrubbing with the brush will take care of that. And then I can go ahead and wipe everything down with a clean rag. Okay, next I'm going to clean my bolt handle guide rod and recoil assembly. Just spray some gun cleaner on there and scrub it with the nylon brush. Then I'm going to take my rag and I'll wipe off all the excess. And again, I'll use my air compressor to make sure that I get all the gun cleaner out of the spring. Now I'm going to clean the bolt, just simply spraying gun cleaner on it and working around the surface areas of the bolt. Once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and wipe it off and then use some compressed air to dry it off. While I'm cleaning my gun, I might as well go ahead and clean the magazine. I'll spray some cleaning solution on there, give it a light scrubbing with the nylon brush. And this definitely, I will always use compressed air to make sure that I get all the cleaning solution out of the magazine once I'm done. I'll even take a Q-tip and work it down in just to make sure that it's dry down in the magazine. Okay, now I'm going to put my hammer strut and spring back in place. The round end goes down, and then the hammer will meet right where the strut is and lock into place, and then I'll push my hammer back and lock it in place. That'll hold the spring into position. Should lock in place. There we go. Now I'm going to take some gun oil here and I'm going to work it down in the trigger assembly, and I'm going to put quite a bit in there because I'm going to end up working it around with the Q-tip and then blowing it out with air like I usually do. So I'll go ahead and put quite a bit down here and just work it around with the Q-tip, all the moving parts, and I'll hold the hammer again. I had to release it so I can work my oil around. I want to make sure I get it all around the moving parts of the gun, like I said, and I'll lock my hammer back into place once I'm done getting this clean, but I'm putting a little bit of pressure on there to hold the spring in place. Now I can go ahead and blow the excess out and wipe it down. Then I'm going to go ahead and start to oil the bolt. Just put a lot of oil on there and work it around with the Q-tip again, making sure I don't have too much on there. And then I'm going to put some oil in the receiver and again work that around with Q-tip. Takes off any extra and it works it around to the places that you need it to go. Next I'm going to lube up my recoil spring assembly, and I put that on the bench and push down on it, and I'll wipe that area off, and then I'll put a little bit of oil on there and work the bolt handle back and forth on the recoil spring before I put it back together. You can see here that the recoil spring assembly and the bolt fit together. There's a little slot there and you can see how it fits together. So that's how I'm going to put this together. First thing I'm going to do is put my recoil spring assembly in. There's a little tip on there, and I'll go ahead and set that in. Right there's my tip, and now it's in position. And I'm going to retract the recoil spring all the way down because the little slot on my bolt has to go right on that recoil assembly. Once I snap that in place, I can release the spring, push it down into, and it'll draw the whole bolt back up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my pin in the back of the receiver and just gently tap it in with my hammer. I want to make sure that it's flush on both sides. Next I'm going to put my trigger assembly in, and I want to make sure that this extractor is in the forward position. There's a little slot there that it'll fit in, and that must be in the forward position. Once that's done, I can go ahead and slide my trigger assembly into place. Grab my little pins here and slide them into the holes. Just push them into place. Sometimes these pins are a tight fit and they might go in better the other way. I'll just reverse the pin. Once I get it started though, I can take my small hammer and tap them into place. Just want to make sure that they're flush on each side, and I'll use a punch so I don't scratch up the surface here. Now I'm going to work my slide back and forth and test my trigger assembly. And it appears that everything seems to be working, so I can continue putting it back together. Now I want to put my safety again in the middle position so that it slides back in the stock real easy. And then I can set my barrel into the stock here and push it down. And then use my takedown screw to tighten it back, the barrel to the stock, real easy. And then I'm going to get my barrel band, slide it over the top here with my flat screwdriver. I can go ahead and tighten the band down. And that's all that's left. Just put the magazine back in and we're finished. I hope this video has helped you take down and clean the Ruger 1022. This is How To Bob. Thanks for watching.